Today we will be solving equations containing integers. That's part number 2. So we've seen how to do some of these problems already, and we're just going to use opposite operations to solve these equations. So let's take a look at our first one here. It's negative 9 times s equals negative 63. So we're going to do an opposite operation by dividing by negative 9 on both sides. So once I've done that, I'm left here with a 7 because the negative signs will cancel. 63 divided by 9 does make 7, and that's what s is. So let's check our answer real quick. If we go ahead and substitute 7 back in for s here, we'd have negative 9 times by 7. And yes, sure enough, that does equal negative 63. So I'm confident that's the right answer. So that's what I'll circle. Next one here, we have to do an opposite operation, but this time it's a positive 14. It's being added to m, so we're going to go ahead and subtract it from both sides. So when I take away positives from a negative, I end up adding the opposite. You see, it's the same thing as adding negatives. And so I do end up adding those two numbers. It makes negative 24. Let's just check and make sure it makes sense. 14 plus negative 24. When they're opposite signs, I do subtract. It does make negative 10 because I have more negatives than positives. So yes, that is the correct answer. So that's the one I'll circle. Next problem here, it's e divided by negative 7. So I'm going to multiply by negative 7 on both sides. That'll cancel out the negative signs and the 7s, leaving me just with e equals, and that's a negative 7 there, negative 56. So let's just check and make sure that makes sense. Negative 56 in for e, so negative 56 divided by negative 7 does make a positive 8. So when we see that they're the right numbers, we'll circle that answer. Well, the rest of the problems are word problems such as these. So the whole idea is to write a problem and then, or write an equation and then solve. So it talks about the temperature in Buffalo, New York was negative 2 degrees Fahrenheit one day. Okay, this was is kind of like, well, past tense of is, and that means equals. So it was, so it is, or was in this case, negative 2 degrees. So it equals negative 2. So we'll start with that. And then it says this was 42 degrees warmer. Okay, 42 degrees warmer tells me that I'm going to add 42. So I'm going to put a plus 42 right here. Again, the warmer was the key for having the sign be plus. Okay, so 42 degrees warmer than the temperature in Nome, Alaska one day. So we don't know what the temperature in Nome was. It just says that it's 42 degrees warmer. So that's what the question is. What is the temperature in Nome? So let's use T for temperature, and we'll go ahead and solve. So we've got our equation. Now we'll solve it by subtracting 42 from both sides. Notice that we have the same sign, so I'll end up adding those two numbers. See, if I add the opposite, again, they're the same sign. So it makes negative 44 degrees. Pretty chilly in Nome, Alaska that one day. So negative 44 degrees Fahrenheit. Make sure you get your units on there as well. Well, taking a look at our next one, it says Lysandra bought 20 shares of stock for $175. So this is the cost. It's like a starting point here. And this is what we began with. And then, let's see what happened after that. She sold the stock for a profit, total profit of $25. So this is the amount afterwards. This is the total. So let's go ahead and set it equal to 25. We know that when we go ahead and combine these two numbers together, they're going to make $25. So basically we've got this amount that we sold it for. We're going to subtract what we bought it for from what we sold it for, and it's going to equal whatever's left over, the total. And so when you buy something, that means that you're spending the money. When you spend the money, that means that we are subtracting. So since we bought, this word here is going to mean minus. We're going to treat that as like a negative. So minus and then 175. And so what did we sell it for? We're not sure, but we know they want to know the selling price of each share. So this is a two-part problem. Let's find out how much she's made off the stock altogether. So let's just call it X. X represents the amount sold for, but not the price per share. Okay, that's not what we're trying to solve for quite yet. We're going to make this a two-step problem. So first step is going to be to add 175 to both sides. So now we have X equals, and this would be $200. So that's the amount that she made from the stocks after she sold it, but she had to take away the amount that she borrowed or bought the stocks for to give what the profit was. So now we want to find out how much each share cost. Each share means that we want to divide the number of shares into our total amount. So let's do this. Two problems here. We're going to take that $200 and we are going to divide by 20 shares. So this was $200 divided by 20 shares is going to give us, cross out these zeros, 2 goes into 20 10 times, so we have $10 per share. Notice how I have the dollars on top, $10, because 20 went into 200 10 times, and then denominator I have shares, so $10 for each share is what we ended up selling it for there. Now let's take a look at our next one here. It says that Jolene has 30 days to prepare for a bicycle race, and she will bicycle 15 miles each day. Now notice we have that same scenario here. $10 per share, I said. Well, we could write this as $10 each, or we'll say for each share. We could say that as well. So right here, this is a fraction. We can write this as 15 miles each day. So that each can be represented as that fraction bar. And so what we want to do is we want to find out how many miles did Jolene actually bike. Well, we'll call that X, or M. How about that? M is the number of miles. Number of miles bicycled. Okay, so we have it equal to M. And since we went 30 days, she has 30 days to prepare, so this means 30 days needs to be multiplied by 15 miles per day. And watch what happens to the days here. So 30 days, the days end up canceling. So then we just multiply across, and that gives us our variable M. So 15 times 3 makes 45. Add a 0 at the end, 450 miles is our answer. Well, the last one here says that two angles of a triangle sum to make 110 degrees. Okay, two angles sum. Sum means add to make 110 degrees. So let's write out what we have here. So angle 1, this is my symbol for angle. Angle 1 and angle 2, these two combine together to make 110 degrees. Alright, well, it says the sum of all three angles is 180. Okay, so when we add in that third angle, angle 3 equals 180 degrees. Alright, so let's go ahead and ask for what is the third angle. That's what they're asking for. They want to know this angle right here. Well, I know the first two add to make 110, so I'll just bring down my angle 3 here, equals 180. So from this point, all I'm going to do is do an opposite operation. I'm going to subtract that 110 from both sides. And that gives me that my angle 3 equals 70 degrees. So there it is. Third angle is 70 degrees. Well, those are types of problems you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck.